Hello, welcome to Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. Today, our episode will be an interesting blend of health, well-being, and mental health. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Charlie Moult, who is a chiropractor and breathwork coach. Charlie, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dennis.
Okay, so right off the bat, Charlie, share to us your story and your trajectory in life. Was being a chiropractor your childhood dream?
Absolutely not. No. I had no idea what a chiropractor was. So I wanted to be an actress my whole life from being a tiny child. And I did an acting degree. And when I was in my second year, I was dating this guy who I thought was the most beautiful man on the planet. And he dumped me, and there were only 22 people in my year. So basically, I went on a rebound night out, met a chiropractor, thought it sounded cool. I'd done science A-levels. So, I enrolled to be a chiro, and I'd never been adjusted. I didn't know what it was. So it was a happy accident.
It was a happy accident. I don't imagine a lot of people dreaming to be, an actor, and then they ended up doing what you're doing. But of course, another aspect of what you do is you're helping people with breath work. And I've got to be honest, I've never heard of what breath work is. Perhaps I'm one of those people who think that breathing is so natural, so I don't need to be coach on proper ways to breathe. But in a snapshot, could you just tell us what is breath work? What does it entail?
Absolutely. So a lot of people say that. So when I talk about breathwork workshops and doing breathwork, they're like, well, I breathe every second of the day without even thinking about it. But breathwork is really, really powerful for lots of reasons. So one of the reasons is that 80% of the UK don't actually breathe properly. So it really impacts our health, and that's mental and physical. And also there are different types of breath work, but if you do immersive breath work, then it's about transforming your state. So you can completely transform your state through how you use your breath. So by doing different breathwork techniques, you can influence how your body is feeling and what kind of state your body is in.
You just mentioned that a lot of people in the country do not breathe properly, and again, some people would find that a bit weird. Like they say, if I'm not doing it properly, why I'm still alive? So yeah, could we try to contextualize what do you mean by not breathing properly?
Yeah, absolutely. So most of us, haven't had any training in breathing. Like you said, we've just naturally done it our whole life. So our primary breathing muscle is our diaphragm. And most of us live busy lives nowadays. Most of us are constantly on the go. And a lot of us tend to be under some kind of stress. I mean, especially at the moment. So because of that, what happens is we tend to go in a habit of breathing from our chest, breathing in a more shallow manner, and not taking in as much oxygen as we absolutely can. So through breath work, you can learn to bring more oxygen into your body and breathe in a way that is much more optimal for your function.
So basically what you're doing is you're trying to help people optimize the oxygen intake, so it reduces the levels of stress and anxiety, which is of course, that's very helpful in light of the current situation. Now, Charlie, what I'm interested to find out is, your work with breath work. How does this relate to your work as a chiropractor? Does it even relate?
Well, I'm really glad that you asked me that. It's funny how your life goes on a journey. So I was this actress, and then I did chiropractic, and I graduated as a chiropractor. And so there's a couple of reasons I got into breathwork. I almost suffered burnout pretty much as soon as I graduated. So I ended up studying for 8 years, and then I went straight into work. And I moved to a city on my own, and I was completely isolated. I was in this basement flat. And I was quite miserable. So I went on a retreat, started doing different meditation courses, and I came across breathwork. And I was like, wow, this is magic. When I did it, it's the first time I'd ever felt so alive. And it also made me cry like a baby. So it brought a lot of things to the surface. And then through time, I noticed that I was seeing patients in my clinic as a chiropractor. So most people that would come and see me would come in for back pain or neck pain or something like that. And I would help them with their bodies, but I would notice that there'd also be a stress component or something else going on in their lives or something affecting them mentally or emotionally as well. So it started as a passion play. So I started doing free classes for clients. So they would come in on a Thursday evening. I do an hour session with them. And it was incredible how that impacted both their pain, but also how they were feeling day to day in themselves. And then from there, I've done training, and it developed from there. It developed from wanting to help clients on another level.
Mm-hmm. And also another aspect of what you do is you help people with their meditation. So you kind of like all rolled into one. You're a chiropractor, you do breath work, and you also help people with your meditation. But tell us about your work in
you
meditation.
broke that then. What'd you say, Dennis?
Sorry.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, you were saying something.
Oh, yeah. So you were saying how it all ties in?
Yeah, so basically, could you tell us what sort of people do come for you for meditation?
What sort of people come to me for meditation?
Mm-hmm.
So you're absolutely right. Everything, it all ties into each thing because, we're human beings. We're very complex. And I think it's really important to look at things from a holistic point of view. I was listening to your chat with, is it Chloe last week?
Yeah.
And she was talking about how important it is to consider people as a whole person. So when we talk about meditation, I think meditation is absolutely vital, especially at the moment. Like, do you meditate, Dennis?
I don't. I was just going to tell it to you that I've never done meditation, but I do see my chiropractor at least, I think, twice or three times a week. For some reason, I always pull a back muscle.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
No, so for me, meditation is absolutely crucial day to day. And there's loads and loads of research on how meditation improves our well-being and our happiness. So how the meditation lies in with breathwork and being a chiropractor is most people don't know how to start with meditation or how to really get into that meditative state. So I imagine you've probably tried it at some point, and a lot of people find it frustrating, or they just can't quite get to that place, that place of peace where the real magic happens with meditation. So how I lead people into meditation is through movement. Movement is really, really important. And obviously being a chiropractor, that's about moving your body. And also breath work is a really amazing way to move you into something called theta state. So that's when your brain waves are at a much more suggestible level, and that's when it's really powerful to move you into the meditation. So oftentimes what I will do is I'll start with the breath work, and that will lead into meditation.
You know what, Chloe, I have some sort of epiphany, if you like to call it. I just realized, because I just told you that I always have back pain and always see my chiropractor, and you just mentioned about the importance of meditation and proper breathing. Perhaps it's something to do with that. That's why I always have back pain.
So it is incredible how our body and our brain are linked. Absolutely. So I always talk about chiropractic in terms of our nervous system. So our nervous system is our life force. And we have three main stresses that impact our nervous system. So you can have physical things like postural habits, trauma, falls. You can also have chemical things going on, so any medications in your body, what you're eating, but also emotional. So when we have a tricky time going on, or we have difficult emotions, it directly impacts our body. So absolutely, like I found, certainly from my experience as a chiropractor, if you've got persistent pain, there's almost always something else going on, an emotional component.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the reason why I actually invited you here at Psych Chat is to ask for some tips and advices on what sort of things we should be looking for in relation to the lockdown, especially with your line of work.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked me that, because that's been a real focus for me during lockdown. So
Hmm.
I think we can all agree that it's a stressful time at the minute. Whether you feel that impact directly on your body or not, there's a huge amount of uncertainty and so many things going on. And most of us, our life has been completely turned upside down in some way or other. So when this happens, as I was talking about the nervous system, it switches on our sympathetic nervous system state. So that is our fight or flight mode, when you're going to run away from a bear.
Hmm.
So if we're constantly in a feedback loop between our brain and our body that we are stressed, then it's really hard to relax, sleep properly, think properly, be creative, think clearly. So it's really, really important that we find ways to move away from this stressed out state into our parasympathetic state, which is our rest, digest, heal, restore state. So a really powerful way to do that is becoming aware with our body. So taking time out every day to really become aware of how we're feeling and checking in with our body. And also taking time to consciously breathe each day, because how you're breathing will actually directly be in correlation with how you're doing in that moment.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, a lot of sectors, since this lockdown, they've shifted the way they do their business online. So is breathwork something that we can do online, or does it have to be done face to face?
Absolutely. So I always used to do workshops in person,
Hmm.
because it's when you are breathing, it's really nice to see what's happening physically and be able to do some hands-on adjustments. And obviously, there's nothing like being in a room with people together and having that connection, or even one-on-one having that connection. Having said that, I've been doing online workshops the whole time during lockdown, and I've also been doing online corporate workshops as well. And I've been amazed at how effective it is and how much we can still connect. So absolutely, you can do it online as long as you have your camera on. So I can
Brilliant.
see how you breathe.
Okay, so could you give us like a sneak peek of what happens in a breathwork session?
Absolutely. Loads of people ask me this. So do you mean one-on-one, or do you mean in a group, or both?
No, but basically what I'm asking is I've never been to a breathwork workshop, so what should I expect?
Okay, so if you showed up to a breathwork workshop,
Yeah.
so what I would get you to do is, first I would get you to do some grounding exercises so that you are relaxed and focused and as much in the moment as you can be. Then what I would get you to do is I'd get you to do some normal breaths. So check in with how you're breathing at the moment. So how we breathe is as unique as our own fingerprint. So the first thing is check out how you're doing with yourself. And then what I would do is I would teach you to breathe in a certain way. So when you're doing a breathwork session, like a deep immersive one, you breathe the whole time through your mouth. So you get much more oxygen into your body. You take big, deep in breaths, and you just sigh out the out breath. So it's all on the in breath, and it's a flowing breath. And you would do this between 30 minutes to an hour. So
Hmm.
it's quite intensive.
Hmm. And I suppose this is like I'm not sure about this, but I can only presume that this is sort of preparatory for, for meditation. Am I right?
So because you're focusing on the breathing,
Hmm.
and because putting that level of oxygen and changing the levels of O2 and CO2 in your body can make you feel, some people say it can make you feel like you're on drugs. So
Hmm.
because you're getting that much oxygen into your body, it's going to change you. So you might feel tingles in your fingers. You'll definitely feel different sensations. And because you're just focusing on the breath, that itself will move you into a meditative state.
Hmm.
And then absolutely over time, a lot of people won't even realize that half an hour has gone, because they're there. They are meditating.
Hmm. And when we're doing this, do you recommend that we should do this with music or some scent, or just, it's better just to stay away from those?
Stay away. No, absolutely. So I always like to burn some sage.
Hmm.
I think it's important to, whenever you're doing meditation or any kind of, breath work, anything that you're doing for yourself in terms of self-care,
Hmm.
um, you want to be able to set up your surroundings so that you're as relaxed as possible. So, if the scent helps get you there, then absolutely have some scent in the room. You don't want anything that distracts you, though. When I do my breathwork sessions, so I have like a carefully curated playlist. So there are songs at the beginning which have got a really strong drumming beat to really get the breath going. And then you'll have quieter, softer tunes towards the end as you're going more towards that meditation state. So music is really, really powerful. I do actually have some playlists on Spotify that I can share.
And for the benefit of our listeners, could you just tell us where your workshop is located, although at the current moment you're doing it online?
Yeah, so normally my workshops are at my practice in New Malden, or I do them around London. So when we do get to actually hang out physically, all those details will be on my website. At the moment, what I'm doing is I do, and they're free at the moment, I do weekly online dance and breathwork sessions once a week, and they're Fridays at 6 p.m.
Okay, brilliant.
And anyone can join those.
Brilliant. And I'm just wondering if there are any apps that we can use to engage in breath work and meditation, or would you even recommend using apps, or are we better off actually meeting a professional like yourself?
So I think apps are really good to get you into a routine. Like with most things, like with exercise, eating properly, one of the main things that people can miss out on is having the routine of doing it, you know, on a regular basis. What some people might do is throw themselves into the breath work for like a week and then stop doing it. How you're really going to get those transformative results, it's by doing it day in, day out as a practice. So I definitely recommend apps so that you can have a regular practice. In terms of doing a deep dive, I would recommend doing that with a professional.
Okay. So I'll let you how do I say this? I'll let you rest for a while, because usually what I do on Psych Chat is I read some trivia about the topic. So I come here some surprising facts about the respiratory system. And I've got this from the website called livescience.com. As a breathwork professional, you might have heard this, Charlie. But one thing that I found is that you lose a lot of water just by breathing. So I think that's really interesting, you know. It really, it sounds like, you know, breathing is just normal, but it actually involves a lot of, you know, physicality, because, you know, otherwise you won't lose a lot of water. Another thing that I found is some people can hold their breath for more than 20 minutes. I tried it, you know, when I was a kid, I tried it. I think I can only hold my breath for like 2 minutes. It's really surprising that people can do that for 20 minutes. How long can you hold your breath, Charlie?
Oh, that made me laugh. I can only hold my breath for about a minute and a half.
A minute, yeah. Another thing that I found is that the lungs are the only organs that can float on water. I've never heard of that, but I think it makes sense. You know, if you're drowning, you really need an organ, you know, that can float in water to, you know, to survive.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Another is sneeze particles may not travel as fast as people think. That's really interesting, especially during the coronavirus. But I think even though, you know, this is a fact, people will still be a bit anxious if someone is sneezing. You can just say, no, my sneeze won't travel that quick. Yeah. Another thing that I found, this is the last one, the common cold can be caused by hundreds of different viruses. And I think we've heard that during these days. But anyway, so we'll delve more to your work, Charlie, where we're having an interesting conversation about, you know, your work as a chiropractor and your work as a breathwork coach. And one thing that I also want to ask you is, Charlie, what's the difference between a chiropractor and an osteopath?
I get asked this question quite a lot. And so chiropractors and osteopaths are similar in lots of ways. So, you know, we both work with bones. So we both work with the spine. Osteopaths tend to work more with how the blood flow works in terms of your overall health. Whereas, oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, whereas as a chiropractor, the focus is on the nervous system. Chiropractors as well tend to work from x-rays where they can, whereas osteopaths don't. And if you think about physio, they work on just muscles. And chiropractors, we work specifically on the spine and the nervous system, whereas osteopaths sometimes will do a bit of both. So they'll do some muscle work and some of the spinal adjustments too.
Mm-hmm. And is it also, because my understanding is that osteopath also like look more into like more serious bone conditions, am I right?
No, chiros do too.
Uh, uh,
Yeah, there is a lot of similarities there. In fact, I know practices that have both osteopaths and chiropractors, so there is quite a crossover there.
Yeah, they usually have that on their display. I don't really know who I'm seeing when I go to the chiropractor clinic. I'm probably seeing an osteopath for all I know. But one thing I know is that, you know, after a few, you know, that they press your back after that. Oh God, that's so much better. And
yeah, it feels good, doesn't it?
It really feels good because you know, I don't really know. I keep on asking my chiropractor, like, why do I always have this? And she says something to do with my body posture, because I'm one of those people, when I sleep, I'm in a fetal position, and I think that really affects my back.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I can't really sleep like, you know, like some people would sleep straight or just like normal, you know, sideways. But I really sleep like so curled, and I suspect that's got something to do with it. As a chiropractor, what would you say?
Again, this is a question that I get quite a lot, and my response is that, you know, I sleep in a fetal position. I don't know how curled up you are. It might be like super curled up.
I am really super curled.
Oh, that's quite a sweet image. I like it.
Yeah.
So it could affect you, but usually as human beings, we will sleep in quite a natural way.
Yeah.
And I would always say that if your spine is moving, you know, you're doing regular exercise, you have some mobility exercises, and your spine is in good shape, then your sleep shouldn't affect you. A lot of people ask me, should I change my mattress? Am I sleeping in the wrong position? Usually 9 times out of 10, it's nothing to do with your sleep.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to think as well that they should sleep on their back. I don't know where this comes from.
That's also my idea. I was also my husband keeps on convincing me that I should sleep on my back.
I think it's awful, and it makes you snore. Like, I can't sleep on my back.
I can't. It's so like movie like, you know, like when I'm watching films, like people don't sleep that way.
No, the only position that I really don't recommend is lying on your tummy and popping your head to one side, because that puts a huge amount of strain on your neck. Yeah.
Now let's go back to your work with breath work and meditation, and I'm quite sure that you've been on this business for quite some time, and you've come across with a number of misconceptions. So could you just help us understand about breath work and meditation? What misconceptions have you come across with?
So one of the first misconceptions is what you were talking about at the beginning, Dennis, just that sometimes people can dismiss breath work and just say, well, I'm breathing all the time. Like, you know, I don't want to go to a workshop where I learn how to breathe better. But actually breath work is so much more than that. So like I said, it's about improving your health and your well-being by calming down your nervous system. It's also about emotions. So have you noticed that when you're angry, like you'll clench your teeth, and you'll usually be I know watch you be angry, but we'll tend to clench our teeth and hold our breath. And when we're upset and we're sobbing, it's hard to talk because, again, we're not breathing properly. When we open an email that we don't want to open, we'll most likely be holding our breath. And the reason for that is that we stop breathing in that moment to stop feeling that uncomfortable emotion that we don't want to feel. So actually through breath work, it's a really, really powerful way to move through emotions, because once you start breathing more fully, all that stuff will come to the surface.
I also realized it because I've got trouble with public speaking. I'm really nervous about. Yeah, I really have. I'm really nervous about public speaking, and I just realized that when I do this, I struggle to breathe. And one thing that I've learned is that they say breathe from your back instead of breathing from your lung, from the top of your lung. That's one thing that they say, that it really helps you to relax.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely before I'm doing any kind of public speaking gig,
Mm-hmm.
I will always do a round of breath work. So just so anyone who's listening can know, I think it's nice to have a little nugget of what they can do straight away. So what I would recommend is putting a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly, breathing just from your mouth and taking big breaths in and out like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that you activate your diaphragm. And yeah, absolutely. So that you breathe from your belly. So as soon as you start taking those deeper, more full breaths, you're going to naturally calm your body down and your diaphragm is going to be engaged. So when you do speak, you're going to be able to speak with more power. So yeah, I find it an absolute game changer to do some of the breath work before speaking on stage.
Brilliant. And of course, these are the tips and advice that you give to your clients, whether individual or corporate clients. But I'd imagine you treat them differently, working on an individual basis and corporate clients. So if you could just, give us a rundown. How does it work working with corporate clients?
So it's interesting. When I first started doing corporate work, I mean, initially it was just as a chiropractor. And then I'm so passionate about breath work. I wanted to teach everybody everything. And the first corporate session I ever did, they thought I was an absolute weirdo because I went in there and I brought blankets and I brought pillows and I went straight into this big breathwork session. And I realized that I'm so used to being with my patients and building that rapport or being with people that have been exposed to breathwork and that spiritual side of things. I realized that I had to dial it down quite a lot and meet people where they were at. So when I'm doing corporate work, what I do is dig a little about what the company ethos is and what they're looking for in terms of how to build their team and what the team is looking for. And then what I do is I go through various breathing techniques that they can use to help them in terms of day-to-day business. And then what I will do over time, once they start to learn the breath work, is then I would do the deep dive into breath work. So in terms of corporate, it's more about learning different tools and techniques day to day, rather than it immediately being a therapeutic thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I suppose also when you're working with corporate clients, it's more like, like general, whereas with an individual client, it's more comprehensive, it's more, custom to what they really need.
Yeah, absolutely. So as human beings, there are always patterns. So when you're dealing with corporate, there are specific themes. So, people want stress relief, people want more energy, they want more creativity. So I will base that on different themes. When it's an individual case, so say if you came to me, Dennis, I would want to know what you're striving for, whether there's something that you're working towards in life and where you feel the blocks are in your life. And we'd dig deep into that. So, like when you go and see a chiropractor and you have your case history, we would do that, but go deeper into what's happening emotionally as well. And then what I would do is I would do a breathwork analysis. So like I said earlier, how you breathe is as specific as your fingerprint. So I would watch how you breathe for a period of time, and it would tell me a lot about what's going on in your life and what has happened in your life.
And also, I'm interested to find out, like, how long does it take? Basically, how many sessions should we have of breath work for us to see, like a visible effect?
So everybody is different. If you did an intensive hours breathwork session, it's impossible not to leave feeling different. Whether it's that you feel much calmer or whether it's that you feel a bit emotional. You will always feel different after a breathwork session, and it will always have changed your physiology. In terms of noticing how it changes how you breathe day to day, I have a little test where you can measure how well you're breathing, and that changes week to week if you're doing the breathwork regularly.
You know what? I had another bit of realization. You said
I love this.
You say that earlier you were trained to be an actress, and it's really far off from what you're doing. But it's actually now, because I imagine being an actress or someone really wants to be an actress, it's quite stressful. It's a lot of anxiety because it's acting is quite a saturated sector. So it must have I think that's where you found out that you're trying to find ways to feel better about yourself, and that's why you got into this. I'm trying to psychologize
I love it. No, you're absolutely right. And it's funny, doing the workshops and doing talks, that's where I get my actor buzz from, if I'm honest. But I think where the true passion of acting came is that I'm fascinated by human beings like you, Dennis. And through acting, you have to understand a person's psyche to be able to become it, to be able to portray it. And it's the same being a chiropractor, and it's the same with breathwork. It's about really, really connecting with human beings. And helping them improve their lives.
And that's how what you ended up doing now. You're improving people's life. Now, actually, Charlie, of course, as you could tell, most of our listeners are men, and I imagine I don't know if I'm being sexist, but I imagine most of the people, and I don't have intention of being sexist, but I'd imagine most of the people who you meet are women, because we've mentioned a number of times on Psych Chat, not just on Psych Chat, but on a number of programs at Men's Radio Station. When it comes to seeking for help, whether mental health or well-being, men seem to be not very open about looking for help. So is that the case? Do you see a lot of women more than men?
Well, when we were discussing before the show, Dennis, it made me laugh because I thought, oh my God, when you messaged me, did you think I was a man? Because my name was Charlie.
No.
And then you thought, oh no, it's a woman.
No, I've met a lot of, I'm originally from the Philippines, and Charlie as a female name is not really that uncommon in Philippines.
Oh, good.
No.
But you did cross my mind. So yes, I do work with more women. But I do also work with a lot of men as well. So what I love about breathwork is that you don't have to talk. So again, this is sexist coming from me, but as a woman, and certainly from women friends that I have, we love to talk. We love to be social. We like to talk about every problem that we have, a million times. Whereas, and certainly from my experience with my partner, who's a man, whenever he has anything going on or he's upset, he doesn't talk to me about it. He'll just go quiet. And I've noticed that with quite a lot of my male clients. So I've noticed more and more that more men are coming to the breathwork sessions or seeking out breathwork sessions, because you don't actually have to tell me what's going on. You can breathe through the process. You can process emotions while you do it. And it will help you. It will help you transcend those emotions. And the whole thing can happen without you having to tell me a single thing.
Actually, that reminds me of one of the earlier conversations I had with a counselor, and he's counseling men. And he said, we can't really blame men if they're not looking for, if they're not seeking help when it comes to mental health and well-being. Because what we need to do is we need to, offer different approaches that actually resonates with men. And now that you mention it, that it doesn't really involve talking, I think that would really attract men. Because some men, they really find it, not really, they don't find comfortable talking, as you've said. So, breathing is something that they could, that they could tap into. Because there's one called like gaming therapy, like on video games or through sports, through boxing, because that resonates more with men. So really, breathing as a form of therapeutic session with men, I think that really, that could something be helpful for men struggling with their mental health and well-being. But in relation to that, if you could just give us, because you're a well-being practitioner, because you help people feel good about themselves. Do you have any tips for men on how to look after their mental health and well-being? Or not, of course, not just for men, but for anyone who's listening.
So I definitely, I texted my partner on this question, and I said, what tips do you have for men?
Yeah, I hope he's listening.
Yeah, he is actually. Yeah. And he gave me 3 words. We were talking about how men don't talk. And he put socializing, nature, and gratitude. And I do actually agree with him on all those levels. So the 3 things which I always recommend in terms of mental health tips is having some form of gratitude practice on a daily basis. So that's, you've probably heard of this before, Dennis, right?
I've heard of that, but it's really nice to be reminded.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things which sounds so simple, but it's really, really impactful. So just having some time every day. So I like to do it first thing in the morning and just before I go to bed. So finding at least 5 things that you're grateful for. And I always write the general stuff like my health, my family, my friends, but also specific things that have happened that day. And then what I like to do is do a gratitude journal at the end of the day. So what am I really happy about that happened today? So like, for example, you, Dennis, will be on my gratitude journal tonight. You know, I'm really grateful
Thank you.
I'm really grateful that we were able to have this conversation. And the cool thing is that when you do this as a daily practice, then more and more you look for things throughout the day that you're grateful for. And what that does is it changes your filter throughout the day, looking for good things rather than thinking about, you know, what's going wrong or what's stressing you out or who's annoying you.
That's really brilliant. So let's say that again: socialize, nature, and then being grateful.
I mean, they were his tips.
Sorry.
Which I agree with. They were his tips. They were my partner's tips, which I agree with.
I think they're very sensible. They're very sensible. So what's your partner's name? Let's give him a shout out.
Oh, he's called Alfie.
Alfie, thank you for those lovely tips, Alfie. I like your tip about gardening, because it's something gardening I already
God, I was like I definitely don't garden.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love gardening. I really love gardening. I'm a freelancer. I always work from home, and when I get bored, I always do gardening. I love my garden. Anyway, so those are really lovely tips, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners could appreciate your tips. Earlier, Charlie, I gave some trivia, and I don't want to caught you off guard, but have you got any trivias about breathing, about meditation that we haven't heard? If there's none, that's fine.
Oh, I absolutely loved your trivia earlier. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Oh, Dennis.
Something that we don't know. No, I don't. I feel sorry now.
No, it's fine. It's just because I'm on the spot. I'm trying to think of something cool.
Okay, but I've got another question for you, Charlie. This one, I'm sure you can answer this.
Cool.
Is there a particular person or book which has the greatest influence in your work as a chiropractor, as a well-being expert?
So a book that changed my life, which I would recommend everybody reading, is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza. What was the book about?
So it was the first time that I'd ever read like a self-help book. And I still have it. I've underlined every single page with pink highlighter because I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So Joe Dispenza is a chiropractor. He's also a neuroscientist, and he talks about everything in terms of neuroscience. So he talks about how energy affects energy, and through meditation, by elevating our state, by vibrating at a higher level in terms of our energy, that we can actually draw our future to us and completely transform our life.
That's an interesting book. I guess that's by Joe Dispenza. Remind us again of the title, please.
It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Breaking the Habit by Joe Dispenza. So for those who are listening, if you're interested to read that book, I'm sure you can find that on Amazon. Now, for those of who are listening, who want to follow your footsteps, tell us how to become a chiropractor or become a well-being expert.
How to become a chiropractor?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's a bit of a longer one.
Yeah.
So you have to study for 5 years. So there's different places that you can study in the UK. So if anyone does have any interest in chiropractic, anybody is always so welcome to reach out and ask me any questions. In terms of becoming a breathwork coach or learning more about breathwork, there are so many different ways that you can do it. And I think it's so important as an individual to find your own journey in things so that it's something, you know, that's really true to you. But a good place to start is there's an amazing breathwork practitioner called Dan Brule. So that's DanBrule, and he's worked with Tony Robbins. I don't know if you've heard of Tony Robbins.
Never heard of him. But...
So he has some great online courses, and there's also a man called Wim Hof. He also does some breathwork training, and you can train to become a practitioner. From next week, I'll also have my own program released, which you can learn all about breathwork too.
And that's available on your website. You also offer, you know, help for people who are interested to become like you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
I think we need more and more. We need people to learn about this stuff, and more importantly than that, obviously be able to teach so that it has that ripple effect.
It's interesting because I could imagine after this lockdown, you know, I would expect that this would soon be relaxed, and I'm actually hopeful that it will soon be relaxed because it's
me too.
Really it's quite stressful, you know. I would imagine a lot of people would be seeking for ways to feel good, to alleviate the anxiety and the stress. As you just mentioned earlier, breathing and meditating. These are simple ways. But, you know, you could actually benefit from it because, as you've mentioned, this is really a powerful tool to feel good about yourself. So I would imagine as soon as we're allowed to, we would be seeing professionals such as yourself. Now, on a personal level, Charlie, could you tell us how you distress?
How I de-stress? Well, obviously, one of the main ways that I would de-stress is through breath work, and also via movement. So if I ever am feeling overwhelmed, I will always make myself go outside and go for a run. So just getting that fresh air and moving my body always really, really helps me. Also, I'm one of those weird people where I love speaking on stage and you know, like I love parties and things like that, but I'm actually a secret introvert. So I get my energy by being on my own, and there's nothing I love more than just sitting on my own and reading a good book.
I see. This is actually an introvert chart because I'm also an introvert.
Yeah.
So, but aside from, you know, well-being, aside from chiropractor, what other interests do you have?
Do you know, Dennis,
I'm
such a geek.
Art? Sorry.
No, I am such a geek. So my fun is doing stuff like this and learning more about breathwork and doing retreats on it. So no, like it really is my life. Especially at the moment, you know, because I can't go out and socialize.
That's interesting. You know, if you could really, you know, shall we say, marry your interests and your distressing, you know, how you distress your life. Now, I always ask this question to my guests. What's one thing about mental health that we should talk more about?
Absolutely. I love that question. And from my point of view, I think something which is really, really important to acknowledge is that, as I said at the beginning, our brain and our nervous system are the master control system of our body. So it doesn't matter how many gratitude lists we write or how many yoga sessions we do. If our body is stressed out, if our nervous system is stressed out, it's really, really hard to make an actual change. So I think it's important to know that when our body is stressed out, we need to find ways to calm down our body. And that's from a body awareness point of view, not from a mental point of view. I think often we try and solve these problems, you know, by thinking in our head, and we have to go deeper than that. We have to really work on resetting those patterns in our body.
Mhm. And would you also, that's a very lovely message, Charlie. We certainly don't talk a lot about breathing, and certainly you're the first person that I talk to whose expertise is within breathing. But would you say that breathing can also help us in terms of phobia, in terms of, let's say, OCD?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So I always say, if in doubt, breathe it out.
Okay, yeah.
Because like I said, it's a primal response to stop breathing when something happens. So if you can breathe through the process, so whether it's having a spider in the room, if you can breathe during that process, what will happen is you'll get more oxygen to your brain so you can think more clearly, and you'll get more oxygen to your body, which will naturally tell your body that it's okay, you can stay calm. And even in terms of, I mean, I haven't had a baby, but when women give birth, women have had incredible results when they've been able to really breathe through it and be there in that moment rather than trying to fight it. So I think what I'm trying to say is, when you have a phobia or when you have something that you're scared of, we naturally want to resist it. And it's often the resistance that's the painful part. But if we can really breathe through it and really be there in that moment and process what's happening, then that's when we can have control of the situation. Breathing really gives you that time and that pause as well.
Yeah, that's really important. As we were, we've alluded to earlier, I think it can boost your confidence. We've mentioned earlier about, struggling with public speaking, but if you do like sort of proper breathing technique, I think it really helps a lot to conquer your fear and anxiety. So yeah, that's really one thing. Like, that's one of the evidence how important breathing is, how important meditation is. Now, of course, I'm sorry, I think I should have asked you this earlier, but how long have you been working as a breathing practitioner and as a chiropractor?
Oh gosh. So as a chiropractor, 4 years, and as a breathwork practitioner, 3 years.
3 years. So that's quite a long time. So, what's one thing that you want people to learn about your work, whether as a chiropractor or as a breathing practitioner, if that's the right job title? I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I want people to know is I love what I do because it's really empowering, because we have so much control over our body. So I think what I would love people to know is that we have so much power inside us to be able to tackle any situation. Most of us think that we have to, and these things are really, really important. There's loads of things that you have to do to help yourself in a situation. But I think sometimes we can forget the power that we have in ourselves to improve our life and improve our well-being, whether that's through our breath or whether that's moving our body better, whether that's having a better nervous system. I think it's really, really important to know that there's so much that we can do to help ourselves.
That's a very heartwarming message, what we're really empowered. That's really the kind of message that we need to hear this time, message of hope, message of resilience, and of course, our ability to bounce back. And I've been having a number of guests such as yourself, because I want to offer a message of hope to people who are listening. And it's been really stressful with coronavirus, not being able to to see your family, not being able to do the things that you would normally do. So it's really insightful to talk to people such as yourself, Charlie. So really thank you for coming over to Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. Now, remind us again, how could we get in touch with you? Do you have a website, and which social media platforms do you use?
Absolutely. So my Instagram handle is DC Charlie Moult. And my website is alignbreatheconnect.uk. You can also follow me on Facebook. That's Dr. Charlie Moult. And I really welcome anybody who's listening. If they want to reach out about anything, if they have any questions, I'm always available.
One more time, your website is Align Breathe. Is that right?
Align, breathe, connect. So align in terms of alignment. Breathe, connect.
Yeah, and of course, I would imagine if they just Google Charlie Moult.
Yeah.
yeah, they come across with your social media platforms. And why do you think that, breath work and meditation is so powerful? Again, it's so, we think that it's really quite natural, that we don't really have to pay attention to it. But why is it powerful? Why does it work?
It works because we are tapping in to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of things that we can do can be surface level. So like, for example, we might have a chocolate cake to make us feel better for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it's on a surface level. And breathwork and meditation go much, much deeper than that. So when you really take the time to be with yourself, that in itself is really, really powerful. And also when you're doing the breath work, you can truly transform your life, because we have something called a breath pattern, which has happened our whole life, right from when we were born. So different things happen in our life. We have stressful times, we have good times, but all of these things can actually leave almost a mark on our body. And through breath work, we can really open ourselves up and release any blocks that we have, release any emotions that we need to work through. It's a really, really powerful way to to release stuff and to grow.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it works. Now, without naming names, could you share to us some, case study that really, you think that breath work and meditation really helped that person?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a patient, not naming names,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd been to see me for a couple of years to get adjusted. And an adjustment is a chiropractic adjustment. So just for anyone who doesn't know, that's where we're realigning the spine and taking pressure off the nervous system. And he would come to me with a bad back, and he'd have really bad episodes of back pain, and he had a stressful corporate job. He would always come in like late, stressed out, and I could never clear up his back pain. It would just come back again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, why don't you come along to one of my breathwork sessions? So he did, and I don't think he knew what to expect, but he just sobbed throughout the whole breathwork session, and he didn't talk to me about it at all. He didn't say what was going on, but he was really keen to do the next one. And anyway, he kept doing the breathwork sessions for maybe around 6 months. And eventually I was adjusting him, and, I was asking about how everything was going. And he just said how the breathwork had totally transformed his life. He was really unhappy in his marriage, and he felt like he couldn't discuss things. He was in the process of leaving his partner and quitting his corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
So what I really loved about that story is that I had no idea how I was impacting that man's life at the time, and how actually really depressed he was. And through doing the breath work, it had been able to allow him to tap into what he really wanted and give him that courage to change things in his life.
That is really wonderful, Chloe. It really goes to show that you really have to find something that really, that really works for you. Whether because you've mentioned earlier one of my episodes with Chloe, because she advocates about the well-being benefits of traveling, whereas you advocate for the well-being benefits of breathing and meditation. And I think that's one thing to realize. You have to find what really works for you, whether it's breathing, whether it's meditation. And that's one thing that we always try to highlight here at Men's Radio Station, because most of our shows really, it's all about promoting mental health, promoting well-being. You just have to find something that really can really help you. I understand that it's best to work with a practitioner such as yourself, but in light of the current situation, could you give us some tips on how to meditate at home?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's the perfect time to start at the moment if you haven't started already. What I would recommend starting with, if you've never done anything like this before, is make it a morning routine. So when you wake up in the morning, don't look at your phone,
I
And
find that hard.
yeah, me too. I'm one of those people that, you know, if you wake up in the middle of the night, the first thing I want to do is check my phone. I'm like, no, Charlie. But yeah, don't look at your phone, and take the first 5 minutes of your day to check in with yourself. So I call it breath awareness. So find a comfortable place to sit, place a hand on your heart and a hand on your chest, and just notice without judgment how you're breathing, how you're feeling, if there's any tension in your body, if there's anything going on with your body. And even just taking 5 minutes to do that can completely transform the rest of your day. So you probably heard of him, a guy called Robin Sharma. He has a book called the 5 a.m. Club, and he says that the first half an hour of your day has a huge impact in how the rest of your day will go. So yeah, I would recommend with the breath awareness. And then what I would recommend doing is practicing deepening your breaths. So taking deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you want to be breathing in for about 5 seconds and out for about 5 seconds, so that you're doing around 5 breaths a minute.
You mentioned about these tensions, Charlie. What are usually the things that cause tension?
What tension in your body?
Yeah, tension in your body.
Stress, life. I mean, some of it could be posture. A lot of us are working from home at the moment. Of course, that's going to build tension in our bodies. But oftentimes, you know, if we have tightness in the chest or tightness around our pelvis, there's usually some kind of emotional component there as well.
Brilliant. And as a chiropractor, of course, I would ask you this. Do you have any tips to avoid back pain? But of course, a bit of caveat here. This is not to replace any medical advice. But as a chiropractor, can you give us some tips to avoid back pain?
Yeah, of course. I mean, definitely go and see a chiropractor and get checked out. One of the most important things is movement. It's so important to be moving your body. So if you are working from home, desk setup is really important. So, you know, things like having your screen at eye level, making sure that you have a good supportive seat. But you should be moving your body every 30 minutes. So I like to call it movement snacks. So rather than thinking that, you know, you just do one
movement.
Yeah, because what a lot of people do is they'll do their workout at the start of the day, which is great, and then they think they don't have to do anything for the rest of the day. And actually, that's when a lot of tensions can really build in the body. If you're sat for a long period of time, or if you're doing something for a long period of time. So even if you're on a stand-up desk, if you're stood for too long, you're going to feel it. So movement snacks could be standing up and sitting down from your chair 10 times. It could be doing 5-star jumps, but you just want to be doing it on that really regular basis. Another thing that I recommend is mobility. So obviously, if you're in agony or if you've got something serious going on with your spine, then be very careful. But the more that you can factor mobility into your work day to day, then that's really going to help you. And what I mean by that is doing things like cat-cows. Do you know what cat-cows are?
No, never heard of it.
So it's really weird to describe, but it's when, so basically you...
I imagine you're on all fours on...
Yeah, you're on all fours, exactly. So you're on all fours. And some people call it angry cat, sad cat. So you're arching your spine. So you're dipping your spine low and then you're arching it up, just so you're getting that movement in your spine.
Okay, brilliant. Those are brilliant tips, Charlie. Now, for the last minute, you have a minute. Tell us again where can we find you, and remind us again your website. And do you have anything upcoming? What's in the pipeline? Do you have any book, any upcoming webinar?
So so my Instagram is DC Charlie Moult. My website is alignbreatheconnect.uk. I'm doing the free dance and breathwork sessions at 6 p.m. on Fridays at the moment. I'm doing a breathwork session. It's based around kindness for the Red Cross next week. Next week. So no, this week. It's a Monday. So it's this Thursday.
Brilliant. Okay.
Oh, sorry. What were we going to say?
No, so just go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say I am writing a book. It is not finished yet.
Okay. Hopefully we could invite you again when your book has been finished. But it's been really lovely talking to you, Charlie. We've learned a lot of things about breath work, about meditation, and how to promote mental health and well-being. Now, I'm just like Charlie. I've written a book called Let's Talk About Behavior, and you can find out about my book on Amazon. It's been really lovely chatting with you. I always enjoy my episode here on Psych Chat. But until then, this has been your host, Dennis Relojo-Howell. Do look after yourself. And if you miss this episode, you can always dip into our website. It will also be available on SoundCloud. Again, this is Psych Chat, your host, Dennis Relojo-Howell. And I'm looking forward to meeting you again next week. Take care and just be grateful. That's what our guest Charlie Moult said today. And breathe in.